G'day, Spicy Lizard. Amazing name, by the way. Do I have any set, steady shares that are a go-to? I don't want to risk too much. Now, of course, I can't give you any personal recommendations on TikTok. I don't know you, I don't know your situation, I don't know your risk profile, and in order for me to give you advice as a financial advisor, it needs to be in an appropriate format, which is called a statement of advice document. But what I can do is give you some factual information, hopefully steer you in the right direction, so you can find out this information for yourself, or potentially go and get some professional advice. Now, in my first book, Enjoy the Journey, Creating Wealth and Living the Life You Desire, I covered off a investment philosophy that is very, very basic and very straightforward. I personally do not invest in direct shares. The vast majority of my clients don't invest in direct shares. We invest in either index funds or managed funds, and I'll explain to you what that is. So an index fund is giving you the opportunity to invest in an entire market. So let's say, for example, you want to invest in Australian shares. You can go and buy an ASX 300 index fund, which gives you exposure to the top 300 companies in Australia. So let's say, for example, you went and invested $1,000. Out of that $1,000, you'd have a big slice of the biggest company, which I think is CBA at the moment, and then you'd have the smallest sliver of the 300th company, all proportionate to their size. And what that basically means is that in that one investment, you would get the average of however those 300 companies perform. So some are going to do great, some are going to do crap, some are going to do average, and that basically allows you to minimize your risk through diversifying over those companies. Now, my personal approach is actually to invest in a diversified index fund, which not only has exposure to Australia, the US, international shares, property, infrastructure, bonds, and fixed interest and some cash. There's also emerging markets and small companies. So in the particular index fund that I invest in, I have exposure to the entire world, and there's about 4,000 or 5,000 underlying investments in one fund. And all I've basically done is try to choose a diversified index fund that aligns with my risk tolerance. So I'm a high risk investor. So I want 90% of my investments into growth investments, so shares and property. And I've basically just chosen that one fund with a very reputable index fund. So what I advocate you do is, firstly, you can go grab my book and it'll teach you all of the fundamentals. Secondly, go into Google and you can search diversified index fund or the top index funds in Australia. Go and do a little bit of research and go and see if you can find an index fund that aligns with your tolerance for risk, whether you want to have all your money in Australian shares or whether you'd like a more diversified approach, and basically allows you to dip your toe into the water. Now, thirdly, there are micro-investing apps out there that are a really simple way to get started, because the easiest way for you to minimize your risk is to minimize the amount of financial exposure that you have. So there's a lot of them. There is Raise, there's Spaceship, Vanguard Direct. There's a whole heap of different platforms. Once again, it's worthwhile just doing a bit of a search, because there are some providers that have done some side-by-side comparisons. So at least then you can see the pros and cons of each of the platforms. And what you've got the ability to do is, most of them do invest in index funds or ETFs, which is basically just a listed version of the index fund. And they have a diversified portfolio. And once again, you can just choose your tolerance to risk. And the great thing about it is, for many of them, I believe you can get started with as little as $5. And then you can set up a regular investment, or you can do one-off investments over time. So I think those are some, hopefully, tips to get you started. I've personally used a lot of these platforms myself in the past. Many of our clients use them. It makes it very, very easy for you to dip a toe in the water. And the technology is fantastic these days and typically very low cost. So feel free to check it out. If you've got any questions, let me know. Remember, not advice, just factual information, and wish you all the best.